What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to Too Much Tech. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the Razer Huntsman Mini 60% in the Mercury White colorway, as well as the red linear optical switches. So I didn't want to review the Huntsman Mini with the purple switches because personally I don't like the Razer purples or the greens. They're just too loud. They sound cheap. Cannot stand Razer purple switches. I really can't. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna touch it until the one that I want is available. So I seen that this one was shipping pretty quickly, ordered it, and I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and check this out. Let's see if I like the improved red linear switches compared to the previous red linear switches, which I thought were okay, but I still preferred the SteelSeries Apex Pro, so that didn't make it a better keyboard. It was just a cheaper option to the Apex Pro. So now that this one is out, it's got a ton of improvements. Let's go ahead and see what I think about it, because I played with it for a good like 4 hours last night. I'm not really gonna get too deep into like how to use all the features and all that stuff and like what makes it similar to other 60% keyboards, because I don't really think it's worth it. Like, those reviews are already out there, okay? I'm not giving you a tutorial, but I'm just gonna give you like my quick thoughts on what I think of the keyboard overall, especially in comparison to a few other options, because I need some help with this review. Huntsman Mini we're going to be looking at primarily, then we're going to do a quick comparison to the Apex Pro TKL as well as the Huntsman Tournament Edition, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on which one I truly think is the best keyboard for the money, because they're all relatively expensive, all over $100, and the SteelSeries especially well over $100, like almost $200. So getting into the Huntsman Mini. Off the rip, a few things that I like about it. Obviously, it's a 60% form factor. They've made some changes to it so that if you don't really want to use Razer Synapse to customize your lighting effects, you don't have to. You can. It makes it easier to do so, but you don't have to install Synapse if you don't want to. To change the lighting effects is really simple. You just press Function, hold Control, and you select 1 through 7 while you have those selected, and then depending on what you do, it will change the lighting configuration. And then if you hit the same number twice, it'll change the effect and go through like the different like presets for that one effect with like different colors and all that good stuff. Or if it's like the rainbow, for example, if you do Function, Control, and number 5 does the rainbow, but let's say I hit it again, it will start to do it backwards the other way. So it just goes through the different variations of the effects. Really simple, nothing really too crazy. Obviously, if you plug it in, you install Synapse, it's a little bit easier to control the different lighting effects, so you can just, pick whatever you want, and you can do some crazy stuff in Synapse. That's kind of why I like it, because it's completely customizable. Some people don't like having the extra app on their computer. I get it. I like the build quality. It's okay, it's just Razer plastic, nothing really too crazy. Pretty much the same as the regular Huntsmans, all plastic build. And then this top plate, I think might be aluminum or something like that. I don't know. It feels like plastic to me, so I don't really think it's anything overly special. You do have quite a bit of support for custom cables, so I got this one from Custom Keys. This is their all white. I thought it matched really good with the Mercury White setup, and it works just fine because Razer has included these really big tolerances here for custom cables, because they know that people are going to start to change out these cables. Then in terms of the keycaps, these keycaps are actually like really smooth. They have a little bit of texture to them, but they're actually really smooth. They kind of feel a little bit like good quality ABS keycaps, but they are in fact double shot PBT. So far my experience using the Huntsman has been really good. Gaming with it, I had 0 issues. I'm very much so enjoying using these new and improved linear switches. So basically, the only reason why I would get a Huntsman is just to have the absolute fastest linear switches. Like, I know like there's like a lot of numbers and stuff like that being tossed around between the SteelSeries and the Razer. The SteelSeries is very fast, and they're pretty comparable. Like, it's negligible. I would pick based on which one you like better, which one offers you the best features that you're looking for, and which one is going to let you do what you want to do in terms of customization. With that being said, Razer does have like their own like double shot PBT keycaps that they sell that you can use to customize this keyboard, and pretty much you can use any other PBT keycaps that you want to use on this keyboard as well, because they are Cherry MX keycap compatible, so you can use anything. The SteelSeries, you can make it work. You got to do some modifications. We'll get into that in a little bit. But in terms of Razer's product line, if you want the absolute fastest actuation, you're going to have to go with this one. It's got a 1 millisecond actuation if you get the red linear switches. If you get the purples, not only do they sound and feel worse, but they also actuate a little bit later at 1.5 millimeters. We're talking about 0.5 millimeter here. So I don't really think it makes that big of a difference, but especially if you intend on being like any kind of content creator. I'm pretty sure that nobody wants to hear your loud keyboard in the background of your Twitch and YouTube stream, so I don't really recommend it. Razer has now fixed most of the issues that we had with the previous generation of the red linear switches. They factory lubed the stabilizers on each switch, and they've added sound dampeners to these switches. And I kid you not, this somewhat rivals a sound of a custom mech with like some Roselio switches. So here, case in point, I have my custom mech video on this one coming soon at some point. But these have Roselio switches from Zeo. They're about 150 bucks for, I think, 120 of them or something like that with free shipping. But these are silence and sound dampened switches. I didn't lube them yet, but I plan to. But this is just how they sound stock in comparison to the Razer. Very, very impressive in terms of just like the sound and how it's not as clacky as the Huntsman Tournament Edition was. So all in all, for me, I think that based on the sound, the quality of the keycaps, the feel of the keyboard, having the size, having removable USB, and somewhat decent build quality. I'm not gonna say that this keyboard feels necessarily the most solid, but it's very good. For 130 bucks, I could recommend this. Now let's go ahead and get into the comparison to the other two keyboards, because this is where I think the more interesting conversation starts to happen, is when you start to compare the Huntsman Mini Linear with the Razer Huntsman Tournament Edition, as well as the SteelSeries Apex Pro. So let's go ahead and talk about the new linear switches versus the old linear switches. So quick sound test. So I hope that was a good enough comparison between the Huntsman Mini and the old Huntsman TKL, and massive improvement, huge. Like, I don't even want to use this one anymore. I really don't. So with that being said, I'm gonna swap the giveaway. I'm gonna return the Huntsman TKL, and I'm gonna give away the Huntsman Mini instead, because it's just better. It just got much better switches. With that being said, the switches alone make it feel more premium, even though necessarily the build materials don't feel that much different between the TKL and the Mini. I mean, the keycaps feel pretty much exactly the same. Obviously, the legends are printed slightly different on the sides in terms of like the shortcuts and all that good stuff. But just the typing experience on the Huntsman Mini is a little bit more elite than it is on the Huntsman TKL. With that being said, which one would I buy if they were about the same price? At this point, I would definitely go for the Mini over the Tournament Edition, that's for sure. Just the amount of improvements that they made. Razer, if they have not already, which they didn't because I bought this a couple weeks ago, Razer, they really need to hurry up and add these same switches to the Huntsman TKL, because otherwise, the existing stock, to me, with the old switches, should be going for like half price. Like it feels terrible in comparison to the new one. Next, we got the SteelSeries Apex Pro TKL. So obviously another 10 keyless version. This one I actually let my boy George borrow like quite a while ago, and then I just never pulled it out of the box once he gave it back. So like, excuse if it's a little bit dirty. He's a really good Fortnite player. You know what that means. They sweat a little bit. They be going crazy, okay? But it's all good. I don't really worry about it, because after this video, it's going right back in the box. The Omnipoint switches, I like them. They're adjustable. Technically, they are faster because they actuate at 0.4 millimeters instead of 1 millimeter. So if you set the Apex Pro to the minimum actuation distance, this will indeed actuate faster than the Razer. So definitively, technically, due to the numbers that SteelSeries and Razer both have on their website, we got 0.4 millimeters and 1 millimeter in terms of the actuation. So you got a problem, okay? Do your own Googling, take it up with Razer and SteelSeries, and Ask them, ask those engineers, because that's what they're telling us, okay? So that's what we got to go on. Now, after gaming with both of them, do they feel a lot different? Honestly speaking, no. They're both about just as fast. If you set the SteelSeries to the minimum actuation distance, does it feel very slightly, fractions of a millimeter, literally faster than the Razer? Sure. I'm sure that somebody is going to notice it playing at 240 or very soon 360 hertz playing CSGO or Fortnite or something like that. So is it noticeable? It can be. Is it a big deal? I don't think it's that big of a deal. But in terms of other than just the actuation, the SteelSeries, you obviously know it's a little bit bigger. It's about $50 more. This one's $130. This one's $180. You got the OLED screen. You got this little dial here and buttons for your media controls and volume and all that good stuff. And this OLED screen is very customizable. If you don't want the very fastest or most instant actuation time, the edge goes to the SteelSeries because these switches are adjustable. Where we start to run into the issues with the SteelSeries is the keycaps are absolute garbage. I mean, these, you touch it just a little bit, and because they're cheap ABS, they shine horribly. They look great when you don't touch them, obviously. You know, they're shiny, they look really good, they look cool, they look high quality, the legends are really clean, I like them a lot. The shine through of the RGB is just fantastic, but unfortunately, the SteelSeries keycaps, they just feel bad. Like, you use these for 5 minutes, and after that, you can definitely feel like the grease buildup from your hand oils on top of the keyboard. I mean, like, you know, I wash my hands, I throw some lotion on because my hands ain't about to be super dry, okay? Wash your hands before your game, kids. Like, ugh. If you don't, you're nasty. Don't eat some Cheetos and then go right back to gaming. Like, that's... No, don't do that. Using the SteelSeries in comparison to the Razer with the keycaps alone kind of ruins the experience a little bit. They're not as good. And for this amount of money, it should definitely come with some much better keycaps. But if you still want to go with the Apex Pro, like I said, I still recommend it. It's still the fastest keyboard there is. You can still swap the keycaps on this and not run into issues, because before I stated that you could, you know, use regular PBT keycaps if you swap them out and throw them on here. And the couple sets that I tried, I didn't really have any issues. But after a buddy of mine tried some Matrix keycaps that did not work with the Apex Pro, he found a solution. It took him a while, but he did find a solution. So my boy George, he got his Matrix keycaps and he used like these really, really thick O-rings from Glorious, and that fixed the issue, because one of the problems with the SteelSeries is that the LED is really, really good, super bright, but it's a very big light. So you need a lot of space at the top of the keycap for it not to either get stuck when you press it down or just not register at all. So having that O-ring there from Glorious, is just their largest size O-ring. I'll leave a link to them in the description below. Those will fix the issue of having any kind of PBT keycap set not being compatible with the Apex Pro. So with the Razer, you don't have to worry about customizability. It's just gonna work. With the Apex Pro, it's a different story. Number one, you're spending $50 more. Then you got to spend more money for whatever custom keycaps you want to get. Then you also got to make sure you get special O-rings for the maximized compatibility, which kind of sucks. It just feels like it's more work than what it's worth. And then obviously, you know, with the Apex Pro, you have the utility of having this extra USB port here. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I next to never plug anything directly into my keyboard. Like if I need to plug in a flash drive and transfer a really big file, I'm not gonna plug it into my keyboard, because one, it just doesn't seem like it's gonna be that reliable. And two, if I plug it directly into my computer, into the motherboard, it's gonna be a bit faster anyway. So I'd rather just do that and save the time and the hassle. So this to me does not really add a ton of value. It's a cool feature, but it's not really necessary. Then of course, you know, you got the routing for the cable and all that good stuff. We do wish that this cable was detachable. I understand why it's not, because like I said, this keyboard has a ton of goodies and that's cool, but still doesn't change the fact that it kind of limits your customization a little bit. And the fact that SteelSeries doesn't have a white or silver version of the Apex Pro out just yet still blows my mind. Let's do a quick sound comparison between the SteelSeries and the Razer now. So between the switches, I'm gonna have to give the edge of the sound of the switches to Razer. But if somehow, some way they were able to lube these SteelSeries switches, I feel like they could be a little bit more competitive. The stabilizers on each, the SteelSeries stabilizers are okay, they're not bad. The Razer stabilizers, the same thing. I don't think that either of them are miles better of either of them. They're both kind of just, like I'll give them like a 6 out of 10 between both of them. They're not horrible, but I wouldn't say that they're fantastic either. Last thing I want to talk about real quick, message to SteelSeries. So I don't know where you guys have been. I'm expecting a few things from you guys. Now, I was hoping that we would get a mouse with a lightweight frame, you know, 70 or 75 grams or less or something like that, with a TrueMove 4+ sensor. I know I'm going off on a tangent right now, but SteelSeries, where have you guys been? You guys have not come out with a new lightweight mouse, and now you guys are even falling behind in the keyboard market. You guys better be working on a 60% no frills keyboard with these Omnipoint switches. Like you've already done it on the regular Apex Pro. All these switches right here are not Omnipoint. So the 60% portion of the keyboard, those switches are Omnipoint. So pretty much all you got to do is just cut off the rest of this. Okay, you turn this into its own lone keyboard. Come out with 2 colorways, this anodized gray with a black and all that stuff, you know, keep it the same. And you come out with a white one with white keycaps and silver frame and all that good stuff. Come out with some improved stabilizers, standard PBT keycaps. Maybe instead of using the same light design on the switches, change the lights. Make the lights a little bit smaller, keep them just as bright. That way you maximize compatibility with aftermarket keycaps, because we know everybody's going to be customizing their keyboards right now. And then last but not least, forego the OLED screen, forego the extra USB port, and make sure that you can use it with a single and removable USB Type-C cable. SteelSeries, I'm expecting big things from you guys by late this year or early next year. I want to see a lightweight mouse with a better sensor, and I want to see a 60% version of the Apex Pro with some PBT keycaps. So SteelSeries, I love you guys, but I need you to do better. The competition is fierce, and Razer at this point, they've been doing a pretty good job listening. Some of their new products, I'm like, you could do a little bit better, but I'm not gonna lie to you, the Huntsman Mini with the linear switches really is a great deal. But alright guys, that is gonna be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you guys are new. Once again, really impressed with the Huntsman Mini. I will leave it linked in the description below to the red linear switches and the purple switches if you're crazy and you really want to go with the tactile, clicky, loud switches. Anyways, don't forget to join the giveaway. I'm gonna update it and we're gonna do the new Huntsman Mini for the giveaway instead of the Huntsman Tournament Edition, along with those HyperX keycaps, and I'm gonna switch it out to a white test cable for the giveaway too. But thank you guys once again for tuning in. Drop a like, subscribe if you guys are new, join the Discord, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you in the next video.